Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here with us today. We are members of the Michael Newton Institute Board of Directors, and we are here today to support Rita in her presentation on speaking to you about Life Between Life sessions, what they do, how they are, and what we can learn from them and her experience with working with them. And so I'd like to start by introducing the members of the board who are here today. Rita Borenstein is the Director of Membership and is a long-term member of the Michael Newton Institute as a practitioner and the Director of Mentorship, and has a lot of experience with working directly with clients and with working with our members throughout their process of becoming members. And Sanela Kovic is our Director of Strategy, who is responsible for where the Institute is going and supporting us in developing new ways of working and identifying ways that we can reach out to you as our audiences and support you and our members in accessing the greater world of consciousness that Michael introduced us to. And Ilse, I can't remember her last name.
Ambrose.
Ilse Ambrose. Oh, brain moment.
Okay.
Ilse Ambrose is our acting director of research. Michael was absolutely adamant that our institute would conduct research about what we do and what we find. And Ilse is responsible for leading the research team and gaining greater understanding about the work that we do so we can share that with you and the world and support us in expanding how we work and how we reach out and what that means for you. And so I'm Diana Paik, and I'm the executive director of the Newton Institute. And all of us, all four of us, are Newton practitioners. So we all do sessions and we all work individually with clients as well as working with the Institute. And so I'd like to turn this over now to Rita and her presentation. And Rita, go for it. Tell us what an LBL session is like, and if we haven't had one before, what is it? Why do we want to do it?
Yes, exciting to be with you, my dear colleagues, Diana, Ilse, and Zanella, and to speak to all of you who follow the Michael Newton Institute and who are interested in the LBL method. We'd like to tell you first in this introduction and then in discussion what you can expect from an LBL session and what the purpose is, and all the stages also that usually is. It's like an all-inclusive hypnotherapy because you will experience your own soul, not only that, but also yourself as a child, as your time in your mother's womb, if possible, and in your past life and maybe many past lives, and also your death in a past life. And that is actually what Michael Newton, the great findings by our founder of this work, Michael Newton, that it is actually possible to remember what it is like to die and what it is like to enter afterlife and what happens there. So we'd like to cover this topic as much as possible, and then I will discuss with my colleagues, we will discuss all the matters here. So the basic thing, I think, with an LBL session is that it's a very long, I mean, in hours and in depth, kind of regression, hypnotherapy regression. So that's why it needs a lot of preparation. So usually, I think all of my colleagues, I do it since years, that every new client, they start by doing a past life regression or some kind of regression so that we know that this person can access past life memories. And I'd like to tell you that for every person who has not heard about past life, it is like thinking that we have a long life, but we change bodies every now and then, and different character with different characters, and we change the settings, and it's like a stage play in a way. And we also meet many of the souls again and again who we play out this kind of experience. So we learn from experience as souls. And this is why regression like this needs to be prepared, so that we know that our client has some experience from hypnotherapy, and the best is to have already experienced a past life. Because when you experience a past life in an authentic way in hypnotherapy, some people do it also spontaneously, but if you do it in a past life regression, you certainly realize that I'm something more than my life right now. So most of the questions that clients come with, and which we will discuss later here with my colleagues, what kind of questions people come with, they realize that I have a much bigger perspective somehow than I usually think I have. And that is why then after the past life preparation, we can then schedule a life between life regression. And basically what this kind of session is all about is that I cannot, or my colleagues cannot take anyone, so to speak, into a certain stage of relaxation, but it's a cooperation all the time. So I call it, I dance, my soul dance with my client. So I follow my client, and because I'm very intuitive, and I think all my colleagues in the Institute have this intuitive healing gift, so they can follow clients where they go in their inner world. And Michael wrote in his book Journey of Souls and Destiny of Souls that through his clients he could hear what it is like in the spirit world and what you can learn from there. So already in the past life regression, some of the you could say some of the themes for this life and maybe other lives you had will come forth, and this way you will be able to know yourself and learn to know yourself and learn to know your own soul. So I think I will invite my dear colleagues now to go stage by stage how this kind of regression is done. So anyone would like to start with telling how you prepare your clients who have done a past life regression and then who are ready to come for an LBL? Any of you would like to share how you prepare the client?
Well, I start with giving them a form, so I learn something about them, and I actually give a form about them, so an intake form, and then I have them fill out a form related to the questions that they want to ask, and so that they can start drafting and thinking about it and about the people. And then I always have a conversation with them in advance, so we get to know each other. If I can, I schedule a Zoom so we can actually see each other, whether we're working in person or we're working online. And we talk. We talk about what they want. We get to feel each other, see if it's a good fit. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. I mean, I think that's a really important thing that perhaps Ilsa and Sinella can talk to as well, is it a good fit between you and the client? Is the client going to feel comfortable letting go and allowing you to take them into a deep trance state, because they have to feel safe and trust that you have their best interests and trust the process. So that's how I start with a client.
Yes. Yes. Anyone else want to add anything?
Well, I agree with what Dinah says, is that you need to know your client and whether you are actually going to be able to be comfortable with each other. It's not just the client being comfortable with you, but also you being comfortable with the client. The way I do it, I also do all the forms and that to get to know the client. And I do connect with an hour Zoom call with my client prior to even booking a past life. And we do just a 45-minute session where I see what their hypnotic state is. And then we discuss it afterwards. And then if they're agreeable, we go ahead, I send the forms out, and then we book our past life regression with that. But I definitely agree, you have to have a good fit. People have to understand that it's not just a walk in and book a life between life session, because sometimes people are not able to just relax if they're not comfortable in your presence, but they're desperate to have that LBL session.
Yes.
And it doesn't work that way.
Yes, and I feel also that I always feel a great trust in, I kind of meet the clients with my soul, whatever that would be, but I am open and aware and open-minded, because that's why we are called LBL facilitators, and it's a difference between therapists in that way. It's more like a coaching process, as some people know about coaching. So when after the intakes then, and we know that this is a client we're going to work with, then we usually we go into the treatment room, because I sit in the kitchen with everybody who come to have it comfortable and cozy. And then they get to lay down or sit like in the chair I'm sitting in now. And then we start what we in hypnotherapy, it's called, it's the introduction. It's like a body relaxation, and it's total introduction to. And Sanella, would you like to share how you do that with a client? The relaxation.
I would love to. My dog is barking, so I didn't say anything.
All right.
Before.
Okay. All right. So yeah. We have our
yeah, we do. Yeah, just as Ilse and Diana mentioned before, my clients also fill out the forms, and then we schedule a pre-talk. It's a one session free of charge where we can get to know each other. And this is where I explain everything about the process, everything they will see, they will feel, what can happen. And then we explore what they really want to do, what they want to achieve, because we use this past life regression as a step towards the LBL, building towards the LBL session. And then I just explain to them how is this relaxation process as well. How will they perceive in the session? Some people perceive more visually. Some people feel more, or sense, or even smell, or have a taste. I mean, I had a client that said it tastes like this. So it's possible. There are so many different submodalities where how person can really receive the information from the outside. And then I explain how the body will relax, the mind will relax. We will just invite that conscious mind just to relax, sit back and enjoy and watch. And we will analyze later, because we need to be in touch with subconscious mind, and later in LBL with superconscious mind, with the soul. And this is, well, you go with your further explanation.
Yeah, so we go along as we. So then what Michael Newton suggested was we call it induction in hypnotherapy world. It's just a preparation. So he advocated for a very long induction. It's different for everyone. Everyone is unique. So when I usually I sense it somehow in the room that we have somehow a very, very relaxing and beautiful feeling. We start what Michael Newton called the warming up. It's not a jogging, of course, but it is a warming up of memories, one could say. But Michael Newton recommended that we would go to childhood memories, pleasant ones. But why? Yes, I remember when I was in my training, I went to a childhood memory when lying on my father's arm when I think I was a baby even, and I felt so good. So then naturally the body relaxes more when we have this very, very pleasant memories. So that's psychologically and spiritually and emotionally how we function, that the more we relax, the deeper we can go, as we say in hypnotherapy, and the deeper we go, the more we will relax. So then we go stage by stage. There's different ways. Michael Newton recommended something called the age ladder. We won't go into that so much, but we go actually step by step to even to the time in the mother's womb when we, as he called the hosting body, I'm Rita and Diana Nielsen Sanella, when we were in our mother's womb and you were in your mother's womb. That's amazing to think about, that it can actually happen. But to me, when I first experienced it, I felt it so true, that I knew my mother was young and she was afraid to give birth and such things. So then if I would be the facilitator, then I would ask a lot of questions. So would anyone like to share what kind of question Michael Newton suggested that we would ask when the person is in touch with their uteral life in the womb?
I usually ask how long the soul has been connected to the body, to the baby. You know, how long have you been with this baby? People come at various levels, you know, at various times. I've had people come in hours before birth, and I've had them come in as soon as there is a brain sufficient to have consciousness. So that could be anywhere from 3 to 4 months to 9 months. And sometimes I ask, have you been with you inside all the time? And sometimes souls have been outside helping the mother. They have been observing. They come and go. If they know it's a particularly rough life, they may come in and then leave and come back because they're trying to make up their minds if they're actually going to accept this life. I ask about the relationship between the soul and the body. How well does this body fit you? Is it a good fit? Is it challenging? What do you know about this life that's coming? What do you know in advance? Are there people in this life that you're coming to join this life with? Do you have a mission with others? You know, and when they talk about them, and what is that mission? What do you know about it? What do you know about the challenges? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Another question I ask is, were there other lives that you could have chosen other than this one? And why did you choose this one? What was it about this one that drew you in? And sometimes people remember and sometimes they don't. So when you ask these questions, there are, you know, possibility that people remember and they don't. Something that I learned in my training from Rifa. Rifa was my mentor. She asked, where does the soul come into the body? You know, where does it come in? And is that where it always comes in? And this can be helpful later if you are helping someone drop into a past life, that if they always come in through the heart or through the top of the head, you can have them drop into the body through that place that they dropped into the current life. And I think it's very interesting that people come in from all different places, back of the neck, back of the heart, head, throat, you know, hands, feet. So it's very interesting to see how people absorb, the soul is absorbed into the body. So
That's right. Yeah. Yes, it is really, and also wonderful to hear you say all this, Diana. It's also, you know, this question I always often ask, that at which months really, and most people they just say 4 or 5. They just, it comes very quickly, and then of course the question would be, why why would you choose to come early or late and all that. So it's a lot of things that happen because most of the time it's a totally different feeling. It seems that the soul starts to speak at that space, that stage, don't you think? I mean, something changes, and Michael Newton probably figured that out, that it's not only the childhood, but the womb is very essential in this kind of session. What do you think of that? That he created this technique to go to the womb also like this.
In my sessions, Rita, what I've found is that in some sessions, the client is not that connected to the soul level because the hypnotic state is not so deep. Mm-hmm. But in other cases where it's an advanced soul, I get so much information from that I think that womb issue, going in and reconnecting to that, is so important. My last client that I had was explaining to me how the soul connected to the baby's body, and the brain connection and the soul connection and the different personality of the soul to the body it was connecting to. And it was just that the soul itself was learning to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And it needed this connection and understanding, but it was so, and this client of mine was a person that didn't have all the knowledge of the chemistry and that, but he was just giving it to me one step at a time, exactly how these connected and that connected. So for me, the womb is one of the best places to understand whether it is a soul that has reincarnated many, many times, mm-hmm. and how advanced they are before we even get into a past life or into a life between lives. But as I say, yeah, sometimes, because you're not getting many answers from the womb, you're getting a few, but not as informative.
Right. Yes. Right.
For me, if I can share, sure. I also asked them, apart from all the questions that Anna and Ilse and Eureka mentioned, I also asked them if they can feel the mother's feelings and emotions, and what does she feel about them coming to this life, to the world. And just this is sometimes just a beautiful connection, reconnection with the mother, and while in womb we are in contact with the soul. This is the soul coming, and it's so beautiful. There are cases where I ask also, well, how is this body different from other bodies? Is the connection different from other bodies, or is it mainly the same? Or do you choose mainly this kind of body and personality, or do you change? And then there are so many different interesting answers. Actually, a whole research can be done just about the womb moments and time. So it's a beautiful place.
Yes, and we said before that the Michael Newton method is to go to afterlife from a death in a past life, but we have reported clients, I think from a lot of colleagues, and I have them often now, that clients go to afterlife directly from the womb, so to speak, because they still, can access, especially those who find it easy to. So, but we will follow the procedure somehow now, and then when we access this kind of stage, usually the session has already been going on for a few hours sometimes, because it's really slow, everything is slow, and hypnotherapy is usually a very, very meditative and healing experience all in all together, because it's like the whole, the body of the client at the present life, in their present life, of course, is healing so much all along. So then it's time to move to Even if we think of time as a timeline, not everybody do. Some people think that it's like everything happens at the same time. So our client would have everything in the now, so to speak. That's why we can access everything. But if we think of it as linear, we would go then to a past life if possible. And that's a certain, you know, all hypnotherapists have their techniques to help clients to relax deep enough. It's a little bit deeper kind of state. Then we won't go into brain waves and stuff like that, because you can read about it in case you're interested. But then we go into one or more several past lives. But we won't do a long procedure like in a past life regression, when we basically focus on what was that life all about. We will fast speed it a little bit, if we can call it like that, even though it's slow, that we go to the death moment in the life that the client then, for some reason or other, become aware of, or relive, or reactivates, one could say. And then we are very interested to know what kind of life that was, and or is, and let the client speak in no time. So would you like to elaborate a little bit about this stage where they reach the past life, or many past lives? Who would like to speak about it a little bit?
Rita, I just want,
yeah. Yes,
sorry, I just want to add that, and I've had experience with this, and I'm sure other colleagues have as well, that sometimes the stages that we are given are from womb to a past life into an LBL. But sometimes what happens is that when they're in that level after the womb, some of them go straight into to an LBL instead of having the past life. But I think it is important to have a connection to a past life. So what I've done, and I'm sure some would do it differently, is when they go to the level where they're on the soul level, I take them to either a place where they have a hall of records, or wherever they can connect to past lives, so that they've got something when they come back to relate to the life they're living now and to a past life, and what is the learning with regard to that. But I have had cases where they've skipped that stage, gone through, but I've brought them back through a different area to connect to a past life.
Right. Yes. Yes, surely. Yes.
I've had a similar experience where clients, even though we tried to take them into a past life, don't go. And when I engage them with their guide, and then we ask the guide, why no past life? Why aren't we going in? To answer that question, because the client feels frustrated. And generally the answer is, going into a past life is not helpful, that it's not the way to get to what you need to know today. And so what is it that I need to know today? What is it that I'm here for? Because they're laying out their intentions for this particular work. That's why they're asking questions, so you're prepared for that. But I've had some very old souls who try and go into a past life, and their guide says, we could take you into past lives, but what's it going to teach you? You've done so many lives that going into one is not going to be helpful today. It's not going to give you enough. So if you want to see past lives, we will show you past lives that are meaningful in context. And so when they go, how come I'm struggling so much? It's because you're not remembering that you're really a warrior, and you're a warrior in a past life, and here's that vision. So the guides can connect you to past lives in different ways, but I'm finding that a number of clients who are coming have lived many lives, and the way that Michael has laid it out is a standard way, but the guides are going to take us on the journey that the client is meant to have. And I always tell the client that we can plan it to the best of our ability, and your guides will take you exactly where you're meant to go, and you will have the session that you are meant to have. And so if it goes in a different direction, we're prepared for it, and just go with it, go with the flow, let your soul follow the direction that it knows it needs to follow. And because people feel like they failed if they can't go, and we want to relieve any sense that not going into a past life is a failure, because many times people simply go into a past life. I do find that when a client is not particularly visual and doesn't have strong visual memory and may have feeling memory or other sensory memory, they may bypass a past life because it would be difficult for them to see it in whatever way they define seeing. And so that's why the assessment of how people know how they get information is so critical, because if someone is not visual and is not seeing, if you're using visual language, what do you see? And they don't see anything, they think like they're failing. So that being persistent and moving them in the direction and listening to your guides and their guides and being connected, because what I think clients need to know is we're in trance with them. Our guides are bringing us in as we are taking the client in, we're taking ourselves in, and we're on this journey with them. And so our guides are leading us in the way that we need to know. So we're connected just as we are connecting them. And so we're following that direction. But it can be, we recognize it can be very frustrating for the client if they read the story in the book and their session is not going like the story in the book. And I think that's a big question. How do you deal with that, Rita? How do you deal with clients who read the story and their session is going in a slightly different direction?
Yeah, well, it's all about the preparation, because I have a lot of clients who are really spiritually, they seem, can I say mature? I don't know what that would be, but so they, most of them say, I come with no expectations. I come with an open mind, and whatever I'm shown, I'm happy for. It's not that they don't have excitement or anything like that, but I don't know if I only attract that kind of people. I seldom, and we seldom in the pre-talk, I don't, I don't tell them anything what to expect. Some have read the books by Michael Newton, or I've written a couple of books myself about LBL. So it's like an open, how do you say, like an open mind, and not mind maybe, but open way, because otherwise we will limit what they will be able to experience. So I think an interesting thing comes up now, because everything's interesting, but sometimes when I lecture, I hear the question, what is life between life? Is it after a certain life? What is, it's like a term, you call it a term, my English is not good, but it's like Michael Newton called the state that we're in when we're not in a body. So what the Buddhists and other, theories about this, it's where we're in a pure soul state, one could say. So the first time I experienced it myself, I think I was laughing for 15 minutes or something in my first LBL in the training, but I'm free. I can go home. And so we come now to the past life. We are talking about this past life stage, and some people go there, some don't. And like Ilse said, sometimes we bring it up still. But then we go to the death moment in the past life. That's kind of where the life between life session starts, actually. Everything else is a bit of preparation. And then it comes to the crucial moment. And some people might think it might be scary, but to me, it's never been scary to me, and it's never been scary to, as far as I know from my clients, that it's my experience from 6 LBLs is that I leave my body behind, so to speak. And sometimes if I had a really tough life, or I'm old or something like that, it's just a pleasure to, and that's what people who had near-death experience say also. It's a tunnel sometimes, and all that. So shall we speak a little bit now about the moment when, and that's also usually kind of where the guides appear. That's an interesting topic. So shall we go into the now the moment where the client lives a life in a past life and then have kind of a near-death experience, but it's safe, we're there with them, so they don't need to worry about being scared or anything, because in that moment everybody who are in that state feel really cozy and deeply relaxed and tell us, even though if they kind of die from burning on being burned or hanged, whatever terrible things, they seem to tell me that now I'm done, I'm going, bye bye, I will leave now, something like that. It's different, of course. So would you like to speak about that a little bit, this interesting moment that we
Past life we explore in LBL session is very short. We usually go to the time of death or day of death. And it's interesting. I like to ask them, is there something that is telling you somehow that this is your last day? Usually they will know. I don't know, they will have different answers, but usually they know. So we go to the last day, to the moment of death. And here we explore as well who is with them at the moment of death. This is really healing. So maybe they're alone. Maybe they just died in the cabin with a dog, all on their own, old, and no one there. And maybe they're surrounded by family, by friends, by the loved ones. They can, if they are surrounded by family, they would sometimes want to say goodbye to each and every one of them. And we also ask, do they notice that you are saying goodbye? Or do you have any kind of last thoughts before moving forward and looking at that life? Well, how was that life? How was it for you? And how does it relate to the present one? It's interesting. This is just a healing point. No therapy. And then they start moving. Sometimes they move forward very fast. Sometimes they move slow. Sometimes they face towards or backwards, looking back to the earth and to the family. And then many things can happen. I had once a case where the soul was in this healing dome for a long time. It seemed like they wouldn't move on. They were there until they were ready. And when they were ready, the guide came. It was really beautiful. And then they could move on. So this is, it can happen, but usually they move fast, and then they come to a place or just meet the guide, meet the lights or see the lights, and well, leave it to the others to continue. Thank you.
Yes, I think we could bring up a question now from one of the followers on our Facebook group, because all that you so beautifully say, Sanella, Michael Newton called it also that there could be a stage there called a healing shower, or the place where the soul rejuvenates or relaxes. I've experienced it many times. I guess you have too, my colleagues. And we have a question from one of which is about how come, if there is such a healing after a life, that we still carry on from life to life. Some even call it like incarnation wounds. It's like a saying that what would an incarnation wound be, that we elaborate on a topic many lives. Michael Newton wrote about it in Journey of Souls also, that we could have, for example, a topic of love, receiving love and giving love, or receiving and not only giving, and topics like that. So shall we talk about a little bit how come, or not how come, but from our experience, what clients say about themes like that kind of bleed over from one life to the other. that makes us evolve and as souls, one could say. Yeah, you want to discuss it a little bit?
Well, I think what I find, especially as one leaves a life, they can reflect on what the lessons were of the life. So if they've done a past life and then they go into the most recent past life, they have some experience. And usually as they leave the life, we do a review of that life to see what the lessons are and to see if they are setting any contracts in place. So someone who has been very greedy and lived simply for money can say, I never want to do that again, or I never want to be poor again, or I had a woman who died of stomach cancer, said, I just want to have food in my life again. I want to enjoy food. And she came into this life and has an eating disorder because she can't get enough food. And so when we went between lives, what we did was we modified that contract, was we work with the guide to release her from the extremes of that and to allow her to deal with that. So when one goes between lives and begins to work on these long-term issues that one experiences over lifetimes, then you're able to look at that process. So if your process is about patience or it's about self-love, these are not things that you complete in a lifetime, that anyone completes in a lifetime, that you can work on for many lifetimes. Relationships, how you treat others, whatever it is, that are very, very long term, that in a given life, you may feel in a single life that you're failing because you failed at had a failed relationship. And in fact, you may have learned a lesson. So the guides then can help you see that in a different way. So healing can be in different ways, that as you address what the lesson is and you investigate the lesson, your guides can tell you, they can show you, they can send you to your record and show you how you've dealt with impatience or you've dealt with relationships. They can take you into a past life. This is why I always have the questions in advance of the past lives, so we can set an intention of the life to go into that relates to their questions. And so if they go into a life of greed, if they're dealing with issues around money and they go into a life of greed and they find that they have had difficulties, now they can ask their guides, okay, tell me about that. Tell me about the lesson and how I did with it. And the guides can take them and show them. There can be a conversation about that. So healing can be in many different ways. It can be an overall healing, like Sanella was describing, or it can be specific to a given lesson or to a given relationship or to an issue. And it can be dynamic. So sometimes our council of wise ones will actually do a physical healing on us. I've had clients explain how they're being rewired, how they can see a literal shift that they're describing as if it were physical in their physical body. They can get a sense that as they're being healed, that light is pouring into them and going back lifetime after lifetime to heal the previous lives in which they've dealt with an issue in a contract. So healing can be in many different ways, and it follows the need of the client and their understanding. And the more open they are to that, the more I find that they experience differing forms of healing.
Yes. Yeah. And Ilse, would you like to explain to me, this thing with guides? Because when I trained with Michael Newton Institute, I was familiar with what some people call it guardian angel. So we have a lot of, in history of man, we have always these metaphysical beings, so to speak, on the other side. And I have a question. I received a question from one of our listeners. How do we know if we encounter a guide or a higher spirit, or is it just someone who has died? And I think it was Eckhart Tolle who said that just because someone is dead, it doesn't mean that they're wise. So some call them even tricksters because they have not left the astral plane yet. So that's so let's talk a little bit about this. I thought Eckhart Tolle was right on the spot when he said it, because we love, of course, our deceased ones and those who. But these sessions are usually about, encountering those who are on another, I think, spiritual, how do you call it?
Vibration, yeah.
Vibration. You'd like to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, what I found in my experience is that when you are entering into the soul realm from a higher vibration, when you connect to your guide or you connect to somebody that is not a trickster. I have yet to encounter that. For all those clients that I've had, they've always met somebody that is there to not necessarily guide them in the right direction because they know where they're going, but to be with them. Their guides, there again, the guide factor is something that opens a whole new ball game, because there are a few of us that do not have guides. We move on a different plane level. And so there's lots of things that are set out that are not carved in stone. Every experience is different. But the client that has moved on to that soul level will feel it. There is a memory recall that comes up when they recognize their guide or somebody they know, and it gives us good feeling. It's almost as if when you're so excited to go home and you haven't seen family and friends and those that are there to show you the way, it's just an unexplainable joy. You can see it in the body language of your client. You could see it in their facial expression. For myself, I've yet to encounter anyone that comes across as the soul trickster. I haven't yet encountered that.
No, neither have I. Yeah, so yes, Anella, please.
Although the guides like to play some jokes.
Yes, that's for sure.
There are joker guides, and it's funny because the clients immediately recognize them. Oh yes, he's turning like I don't know. He's putting this character now, this face, because he knows I love it, and he knows I will recognize him. And this is something what they do. But I also have never encountered any kind of trickster. In my opinion, it might even be a conscious interference.
It could be, yes, right. So all in all together, this is such a huge topic. And I think before we go into some general things, there's this phase with meeting soul groups, and Michael Newton, that was in Journey of Souls, where when he actually found the way to explore like this, because he had this client who was feeling so lonely, and all of a sudden the client in hypnotic trance then told Michael Newton that I'm with my friends now. And he said, who are your friends? Oh, I'm not on earth, I can't remember exact the wording, but that's when Michael Newton got so interested to figure out who are these and how come a client can remember all this. So we won't reveal all this beauty of the session, but I think you had a little taste of what this session could be like. And we have also other stages. Michael Newton would call them the station stops. Not all clients these days go to, it would be, for example, a library or a park or something like that. And why would a client talk about a park or a library? Yes, because our brains need a metaphor like that, or a symbol to access certain stages in their development. So it's a lot to talk about that. But I think we can now conclude by this session could sometimes be 3 or 4 hours long, and then before then ending the session, we try to figure out, why did you choose this life? We already asked this question in the womb stage, and maybe we ask the client's question, you know, along the session, but in the end we would, if possible, then if it seems, you know, fit into the the client plan, we ask, why did you choose this particular life? And these days I hear so many clients say, I came here to help. And that's why I want to heal all my wounds in past life. You cannot heal all wounds maybe, but it seems to be a time now. And I'd like to ask you, my dear colleagues, if you have experienced this, that there's a lot of people now say that they want to help to improve this world that we're living in this time. Have you heard clients say that?
Yeah, I've had that experience. It's all to bring light into the world,
Yeah.
to raise the vibration and to change the level of consciousness.
That's
I've had clients who come who don't know how they're to be of service. They just know that they're being called, but they don't have a sense of what they're being called for or to do. And they understand that it's purposeful. And so they don't want to miss the purpose that they're here for. I think that people are feeling a little overwhelmed that there is a purpose and they don't have a clue what it is. So they're really seeking guidance on how to be of service rather than that they're supposed to be, that they're here to be of service. And they don't know, one of the things they're wanting to understand is how to connect with consciousness. They don't call it consciousness, but how do I stay in connection? Because it's really about, how do I know what I'm supposed to be doing here? How do I get information real time? How do I stay connected? How do I use what I'm doing for the highest good, for the greatest purpose of the planet, or whatever language they're using to express that? But they're usually seeking, they're in a seeking mode, which is why they show up. I mean, that's why they come. They don't, but the language about what it is or what they're looking for changes a lot.
And they are younger and younger. I think Michael Newton decided not to have any, he was so busy, of course, because a lot of people wanted to have sessions with him, but not to have sessions with anyone under 40, I think it was. But now I have clients 25, 30. And I think it was a colleague in Alaska, I can't remember his name now, he said in one of our Zooms in our organization that he used to have young clients who had from guides saying that, okay, yeah, you're on the right track, yeah, like that. But now it's also about the soul mission and so they get guidance. He said the younger and younger people get guidance that usually it's about the talents already we have. And so to me, the soul mission is, or the mission in our life is what I love and what I love to do. And this is LBL for me.
Soul, the soul age and the body age do not correspond.
No, right.
You can have a very old soul who's in a very young body. I think the youngest I had was 20, and he was someone who was very confused and didn't quite know what to do. And in some ways, the guides were saying, you have to live this life. We can't tell you, but here are some clues that can help you feel connected so that you can live better. They're never going to tell you what the rest of your life is going to be, but they can support you in your direction and your connections so that you can stay connected. So I think Michael found that young people at that point did not have the life experience to be able to benefit. And I think young people today have different life experiences than when he was practicing with young people.
Sure, yes. So naturally then, after so many hours, we need to very, very softly have the clients, breathe themselves back to, we use a lot of counting in hypnotherapy, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you're coming back to the room. And so I usually spend, we never discuss and analyze the session. I usually tell them that, just now let this be with you for a while, and then you can call me in a week or two if you want. And so some clients maybe come back for another LBL, but in my experience, I had one client who did 3 sessions, LBL sessions during 2 years, but that was, this is not, that's what something people do, every week or every. So we had a question from one of our listeners also, that is it worthwhile the money, and what can you get out of it? So now, after listening to all of this, maybe you understand that we as facilitators, we invest a lot of devotion and energy, and maybe it's not you cannot put a price on all this, but usually my clients, at least, they are very happy with what they get out of it, and so we agree already from the start what the cost will be, and so on. So I think it's pretty much the same, but it maybe a little bit depending where we live in the world. So I don't know what else to answer such a question. Anyone else want to say something about what they can get out of such a question, and if it's worth the money?
For me, it was worth the money because I did my LBL prior to my training and certification. For me, it was fully understanding why I'm here and what am I here to do. These were the questions I asked myself all my life. I learned so much, I read so much, I meditated, I was in search for this ultimate answer to the question, why am I here? And why this specific family? And why this body and country? And knowing that, it healed me completely. It was like the circle closing of all knowing and understanding everything. So for me, it was definitely worth everything.
Yes, for a lot of people, it's an overwhelming experience in a nice way. It's an overwhelming experience, and it changes people's lives. And for us, I think, who chose also this LBL facilitator profession, I mean, to me, it totally changed my life after my first session in the training. And this is what I do now. I left my nursing and my osteopath career, and I left pretty much everything it's not a sacrifice or anything. It's so much fun, and also to be active in our institute, where we happen to be the board members, and we have more board members too who are not here, but we have a lovely education, and we have a lovely community. So here on this Facebook group, you will be able to ask a lot of questions. And what do you think, colleagues? Shall we finish this now, or do we have something more to? There was a question, a couple of more questions. I think we can add them in the thread and answer them there. I have no idea what time we have. So yeah, you think we should end our interesting conversation?
I think, Rita, we've covered the basics. I mean, what you meant to do today was to walk people through the process so they got a feel for it, and they could get a sense of the intensity and the depth of the work, and that the work is intentional. So if it's something that you're considering doing, it's important for you to understand your intentions and to work with somebody who can help you explore and bring out your intentions, so that you do work that is meaningful to you, and that you find someone that you're really comfortable working with. You can see that all 4 of us are very different personalities, and that we're colleagues, and we all do the same work, but we approach it slightly differently because of our experience and our paths. And so finding the right therapist, the right facilitator, is an important part of your journey, because we're going to be your support and to help you work with your guides. And so I think the basics are important. Now it's time for you, as our viewers, to investigate your journey and to see how we can help you, to see how this work can help you. And if you have more questions, to add them into the thread, or you can go to our website, which is newtoninstitute.org. There is a lot of information there. We also have a quarterly journal that we publish that has stories called Stories of the Afterlife. You can find out more about that on our website as well. And there on our website, you can locate a therapist, whether you're looking for somebody who is local to you or you are open to online. Look at our pictures, look at our profiles, find a couple of people, talk to them. We're always interested in talking. You could see we could talk for hours about this. None of us is shy about talking about this because it's what we love and what we're connected to. We are guides to help you find this work and to help you do your search. And so to us, this is a very open process, and we want you to ask your questions and feel comfortable asking your questions and receiving the answers you need and the guidance you need.
It's beautiful.
So,
ending of this wonderful, wonderful conversation we had. And sending our love to all of you out there in the world. And we'll do more of these different group recordings, I think. So you will meet more of our members in the time to come, right?
Please share your experience. If you had an LBL, share it in the group. They would love to hear about it and read about it. And thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.